Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Bluebaggers Edge. Always a pleasure to have your company. We are here, of course, to preview the round 3 game against the Western Bulldogs at Marvel. And yeah, another game, hopefully a different result to what we've seen and been accustomed to in season 2025 thus far. It's an interesting game. It's going to be a hard one, goes without saying. I mean, putting aside our recent form line, the Bulldogs are a very, very good side, and I think they were very unlucky against the Pies and probably deserved the win in my eyes, the way that they played. And yeah, it's going to be a very interesting encounter. It always irks me when we play the Dogs because we obviously play them on their home deck, even though it is traditionally our home game at Marvel. They are one of the, I guess, home tenants at Marvel, and very rarely do we actually play them at the MCG. I know it makes sense because, we wouldn't have the capacity, the crowd numbers to justify playing it at the MCG, but I mean, hey, we're playing the Saints at the MCG this season for the first time in a long while, and rightfully so, because we always struggle against the Saints because it's at Marvel as well, which kind of doesn't help the situation. But let's take a look first and foremost at the ins and outs for the team. And as you can see here, we're bringing back in Jordan Boyd, which is a welcome inclusion. We are in much need of his burst of speed, his incredible skill set, and precise kicking. Now, I'll speak to the outs in a moment because when I saw them first up, I was disappointed, is probably the word I'd use. But equally as disappointing is the other in. And I don't think it's a good endorsement when we're relying upon a guy that we've signed as one of our last list spots in Francis Evans. And I will give him credit because the round 1 game against Richmond, when he had the ball, he was actually okay, but didn't get his hands on the ball enough to make an impact. And for him to come back in off the back of now speaking to these two outs, especially in Lucas Camporelli and Cooper Lord, does not make sense. First up, Lucas, he's actually been one of the better performers, I think, in terms of his intent. And I know he had a bit of a down game in round 2, but I think to make him a scapegoat is a little bit harsh. And even more so Cooper Lord, who I think starting as the sub and then being subbed off in the first game and then being the starting sub, it just doesn't sit well with me. I mean, we allowed Matt Kennedy to move on to the Dogs, and we allowed gave Jack Carroll his, stamped papers. And here I was thinking that we're going into 2025 with Cooper Lord as, the next incumbent, the guy that is going to step up and take those vacant spots and be a regular contributor. Because from what I've seen of Cooper Lord at VFL level, what I've seen at Cooper Lord at senior level is very, very good. And he's the player that I think has the potential to really step up his game and become a valuable member of the Carlton Football Club. And the fact that he's being now disrespected, I think, in a sense where we're calling out for, quality contested players, of which I think he is definitely one of them, and showed enough positive signs, it just is so perplexing to me. And there's so much that's wrong with the selection table, I think. And we've seen it across the journey in 2023, TDK being the starting sub, the way the team was selected in the finals series, against the Lions in the elimination final. But even like dropping bins after half a game, Matt Kennedy being disrespected, all that sort of stuff, it really doesn't sit well with me. And then I see, moves like this, bringing in a guy who, Francis Evans, I don't think he is an impact player. I don't think he has the capability to really impact at senior level. And a guy who has had 2 opportunities previously at both Geelong and Port Power and hasn't capitalised on them. To me, he's another Orazio Fantasia 2.0. And that's someone that is being given games when I don't know why he's being given games. And it's not off the back of good form. So why is Francis Evans in? In terms of what's not listed there, in terms of outs, is obviously Harry because he didn't play last week. He is out, unfortunately for him, an indefinite period, and we can't speak to that too much because whatever he's dealing with, we wish him all the best. And, you know, there are, some of us that can relate to what he could be going through. So, and if that's the case, reach out and have a chat to someone. But we don't know the circumstances of that. And, it's really, it just adds another layer, I think, to 2025 and, what it's been like thus far. But we're going to have to move on and try and find replacements. And I think we saw last week without Harry in the team, Sauce shifting back forward, I think, to great effect. And we saw that against Richmond as well for stages there. And Lewis Young coming in and, he's not the most capable defender, Lewis Young. But we're obviously going to persist with that. Kempy up forward. But what I would have loved to have seen instead of Francis Evans coming in, and it should have, I think, happened last week, is Ashton Moir coming into the side. Now, I feel as though Voss, not unlike, but, I guess the opposite to comparing to, say, a Ross Lyon, who has debuted how many new guys in the first couple of weeks of 2025. But I feel as though we lack the confidence in the young guys, like Cooper Lord, Lucas Camporelli. Like, these changes here just reflect that. Ashton Moir not getting a go. The only reason he got a go last season late in the piece was due to injuries. But what we saw was promising. So I just cannot understand for the life of me as to why a player like him isn't in the starting team. It just doesn't make sense. And again, like, he's an emergency. Will White's probably another guy I would have preferred to have seen in the team compared to Francis Evans coming to the team. Kicked, I think it was 3 or 4 goals potentially, Will White. So I just don't know. I don't know what we're getting at. I don't know what the long-term plan is. Like, is it a stopgap? Like, where does Francis Evans fit in? Last week, I didn't mention it in the review episode, but I probably should mention it that, I've been quite critical of the likes of Jesse Motlop, and he actually played a half-decent game. I will say that. Conditions might have suited him as a small forward in wet conditions, but he showed a fair bit of intent, a fair bit of pressure as well, which was great to see. And, overall, I think was a really good game by him. Fogarty, another guy. We've got Sauce named at centre-half forward, Charlie at full forward, Brody Kemp as well, and Doherty, interestingly enough, in the pocket. In terms of matchups, we can say that Sam Darcy is definitely one guy that we need to keep watch on. Looks like one of the, superstar forwards of the future, already pretty much there, arguably. But, playing weeders on him, I think the advantage or one way to combat him is having a bigger body defender on him. I think if we go with an agile defender like a McGovern or a Young, we're going to get absolutely smashed. And I think given his insane leap, his ability to mark at the highest point virtually, very similar to a Jared Waite reminds me of, Sam Darcy. Charlie Curnow to an extent as well, his marking ability. But that is there, I think, the danger. If we can lock down on Sam Darcy and limit that, I think that will, at least get us in a better position to potentially have a chance at claiming a win. But of course, one player isn't the be-all and end-all. There are so many guys we need to really keep watch on. Ed Richards in the middle, being in impeccable form. Joel Frazier is a bit of a, Swiss Army knife in a sense that he is a defender, but rolling through the midfield. In terms of our forward line, it's going to be, again, a bit of a bit part forward line. Like, Silvani has to, really step up and become a traditional centre half forward, or as a Kemp potentially, and then have Silvani as that third tall. Liam Jones makes his return, just speaking in terms of the ins and outs for the Dogs. James O'Donnell as well, and then out goes Duray and Arthur Jones. I thought Buku Kamas played really well against the Pies last week for the Dogs. A really underrated player. And Bailey Dale is another one that really, really can hurt you with the rebound off half back, and probably someone that we need to pay a bit more close attention to. And I don't, excuse me, I don't know if that's the case of, playing a Fogarty on him to try and lock him down and play more of a defensive forward role on him and just stick with him wherever he goes, because his running carry, his penetrating kick, his incredible foot skills can be very, very damaging. Let's have a quick look at how we, I guess, have shaped up in our previous matchups against the Dogs. So most recently, it was in 2024. We fell short by 14 points, 14, 16, 100 to 12, 14, 86. Prior to that, we went down by 20 points, 11, 13, 79 to 8, 11, 59 in 2023. And our last win against the Dogs was back in 2022, 13, 12, 90 to 16, 6, 102. I mean, it just comes back to basics, really. Confidence. Hopefully we can extract some sort of confidence out of the Hawthorn performance. I think our ability to stay in the game and, I guess, hold a lead against a quality opposition in the Hawks is, a positive in a sense. We're at the stage now where we have to take the small positives where we can, and that's probably one of them. But if I'm being honest, personally, do I think we will win? No, I don't think we will. Call me jaded, call me whatever, but until I see reasonable improvement in, seeing us trying to rectify those deficiencies that we've had week after week, and again, it's the same thing. Our inefficiencies inside forward 50, our inability to hit up targets inside forward 50, our vanilla approach to exiting defensive 50 with our bombs down the line, panicking, handballing sideways to players already under pressure, getting caught, having a holding the ball decision being paid. All those things I think I need to see in action. I need to see for the first time those areas being fixed. And I think then and only then will I turn around and say, look, I think we're a chance. Because the opposition sees that, their analytics team, they have a look at it, they sit down, they work out our lack of structure, in various aspects, one of those being with the opposition having such an easy ability to exit their defensive 50 and virtually go end to end. There's so many things structurally where we fall down, and, there were times there against the Hawks when it was a lot of the times actually where we, instead of just like getting back to basics and adjusting where you're playing man on man, especially in wet weather footy, the players were still being asked to guard space, which just doesn't work in wet weather footy. And again, gets back to that point of having a lack of plan B, depending on where you're playing, whether it be oval size, whether it be conditions, the opposition exploiting, a lack of talls maybe in an opposition's defense, so on and so forth. Like, it's just broken clock, broken record type stuff where it's the same thing week after week. And I think looking at the Dogs on paper, they're a quality team. They are. Even without Bont, even without Treloar, their engine room virtually gutted of their, two of their best, 4 players in their engine room. They're still a really, really good quality team. In all honesty, I expect us to go down by around about 30 points. I wish it was different, and I hope that we have a different result. But even just looking at the odds, and again, gamble responsibly, and I wouldn't say put a bet on this because I hate betting against Carlton and I never will. But $1.75 for the Dogs, That's good value. But again, don't do it. But just looking at that now, just on the screen there, it's just like, that flatters us a fair bit. I mean, looking at what the Dogs have been able to produce in the first 2 weeks compared to us, chalk and cheese. But, as they say, a week's a long time in footy, and we saw with the Saints in their win against the Cats, they really came from out of nowhere, and it was their approach to the game. They came out firing, and even though they let the Cats back into the game and almost lost it, like we did against the Tigers, they held on. They had that grit to really put their foot in the ground and continue on, don't go within their shells, don't lose confidence, and they got the win. So it is possible. I think we can do that. Are we in the mindset and position to be able to do that? I have my doubts. Yeah, I have my serious doubts because of the confidence of the team and, what they've shown in the first couple of weeks. As I said, Hurry's a big loss. He's coverable, that's for sure. But, yeah, I don't know. But let us know your thoughts, though, in the comment section down below. I am keen to hear your expectations, key matchups. Do you think we have a chance of winning? Realistically, hopeful. We're all hopeful as supporters, as members. We go week after week. I'll be there yet again. I've been every game thus far and will continue to do so for home games. But it's almost like transporting me back to my younger years, early teens when I was making the tram ride down to Optus Oval as it was, and, the dark years, the early 2000s of, still going to watch the team, support them, but knowing more often than not, it's going to be hard pressed to come away with a win. And if we were to limit a loss to around about a, 2-3 goal margin, then that would be classified as a win. We're not that bad as yet, but I think in terms of the mindset going into games, it's almost like transported me back to those moments, given the state that we're currently in, which defies the quality of the team on paper, as we know, as we see the big names, the awards we've won, the multiple Coleman medalists, the multiple Brownlows that Cripper's won, the multiple All-Australian jackets that players in our team have been able to have. So the quality's there, but the confidence isn't. And I think we know we can perform at a higher level. And, I'm not going to be, backwards in coming forward, because I will say that I have serious doubts over the coaching panel, serious doubts over the assistant coaches, and serious doubts over Michael Voss. Tactically. Might be a good motivator, but tactically, and there's been a trend there. I think we're in a very precarious spot. That's all I'll say. If we lose this game, is it dire straits? Maybe not. Maybe not. They might say it's a quality opposition, it's a quality team, and I think they are the Dogs. But the blowtorch it's getting hotter. It's getting hotter, and time is of the essence, especially with a team as talented as ours. On paper. But we have seen in 2023 what we can produce. So we know it's there. The foundations are there. But are we extracting the best out of our team? No. So we trudge on. We turn up, and we just hope the players do likewise and can come away with a win. That's all we can say. That's all we can hope for. So with that, ladies and gents, let us know, as always, down in the comment section below your thoughts and expectations. And with that, we will see you in the review episode. Hopefully, we're chatting about our first win of the season. I'm not going to get my hopes up, but let's see. All the very best, and go Baggers.
Have you ever heard the MCG like that? Are you kidding me? Yeah, are you kidding me?